Hi guys, it's Brittany, and this is my May wrap-up and the June TBR. So I read, how many books did I read? 11. I read 11 books this month, and that's a pretty good month for me. I think it's mostly because I just got done with school, and so I'm kind of like, yo, I have all this free time now. What am I gonna do? Read, of course. And so 3 of these books I finished in the last week of school, but the other 8 I have read since coming back. So the first book I read this month was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adi. This is a retelling of 1001 Nights, and it's an amazing book. I read it in like a day, and I loved it. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars because it was just great. It's pretty and it's glorious, and everyone should read this. The second book I read in the month of May was The Siren by Kiera Cass. It's obviously about sirens, but it's really good. I really enjoyed it. This book got 4 stars from me, and I enjoyed it. So I ordered The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Adi, which is the sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn, before I was even halfway done with The Wrath and the Dawn, and because I loved that book so much that I had to have more. It was a good book. I loved it. It also got 5 out of 5 stars. So I love this duology so much. I hope that we get more stories from this world, because it's glorious. The first book I read after coming home from college was The Crown by Kiera Cass. So I loved the Selection series. It was the first series that I really ever loved enough that I was like, okay, I gotta pre-order all the books. Like every time a book came out, I pre-ordered it. The Elite was the first book I think I ever pre-ordered, and it was a big part of my introduction to YA, and so the first trilogy was great. I didn't really like The Heir and The Crown as much. I mean, I enjoyed them, and so obviously I bought them, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the Selection. But it was still a great book, and if you have read the Selection series, I still think you should finish the series because it's great. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, so yeah. The first 4 books I read this month were pretty small. I don't think that I read a book longer than 350 pages in the first 2 weeks of the month, but that all changed when I picked up this giant beauty. I mean, look how big it is. I adored this book. I wasn't a huge fan of A Court of Thorns and Roses, but this book, oh my god. I was not expecting to like this book. I was not expecting to like Rysand. I wasn't expecting anything. My expectations were set pretty low, and this book far exceeded all my expectations. I was so happy with this book. I blew through it, but it was great. I loved it, and it's just beautiful. Is this going to be a trilogy, or is it going to be more? If you know, let me know, because I don't know. The next 4 books I read this month, I do not own. One of them I owned for a time, but it was because I bought it as a birthday gift. But I wanted to read it before I gave it as a gift. So, yeah. The other 3 are library books. So the first book that I don't have is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. So I bought this as a birthday gift for my friend, and but I wanted to read it first. So she got a red copy of Me Before You for her birthday. So I read it, and I loved it. So I got the sequel from the library. So After You as well. I read both Me Before You and After You from this month. both by Jojo Moyes. So Me Before You, I think, got 4 stars, and After You got 5 stars. It's not very often that I like a sequel better than the original, but I loved After You. It is a consensus that After You is good, but it's not as good as Me Before You. But I think I know I liked it better because it was, After You is more about Lou discovering who she is as a person as opposed to who Will wants her to be, which is more of what the first book is about, in my opinion. One of the other books that I got from the library was The Winter's Kiss by Marie Rutowski. And the last book that I do not have that I read in the month of May was Six of Crows. I love Six of Crows so much. It's already on my favorites list. If you want to know more about my opinions of the book, I have a book talk on it, which I can link below. So, yeah. So, I have 2 more books that I read this month. So, the first 9 books I read in like the first 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. And then I kind of got in a reading slump. In the past week and a half to 2 weeks, I've only read two books, and those were both this past 3-day weekend. So I've definitely been in a slump. I think most of it has to do with the fact that I was in a book hangover over Six of Crows, but it also might be a little due to the fact that I started rewatching my favorite TV show, which Stargate SG-1, if anyone wants to know. It's a great TV show if you like sci-fi. So any time that I would normally spend reading is now dedicated to Stargate. There's 2 ways that I normally get out of slumps. Read a bunch of contemporaries until I get bored of them and go back to fantasy, and rereading a bunch of my favorite fantasy books. I reread a fantasy book and I read a contemporary, and it's both in an attempt to get out of this slump, and unfortunately I am still in a slump. The contemporary book I read this month was Megan Mead's Guide to the McGowan Boys by Kate Bryan. The only reason I read this, the only reason I bought this was because it was only 80 cents at Half Price Books when I went this weekend. And so I was like, okay, you can't pass up 80 cents for a book. I mean, really. And I knew I needed to read a contemporary to help me get out of my slump. It wasn't bad, but I think I gave this 3 stars. So, the one that I have right here is this second book in a series, and everyone talks about the first book. Like, everyone loves the first book. They are companion novels, they're not sequels. So, but everyone loves the first book the best. And I'm like, but fire. Everyone talks about Graceling, but no one ever talks about fire. And I love fire. I've probably read this book 8 or 9 times since I first read it in like 6th grade. And I read this before Graceling, so that might have some impact on why I love it more. So Fire, the main character her name is Fire, and she is a monster, which means she's extraordinarily beautiful, and she has the ability to control people's minds, but she doesn't like that. And so this is a lot about her struggle to determine what her own barriers are and where she wants to draw the line between good and evil. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think this is a really underrated book, and I think more people should give it love because I love it so much. So those are the 11 books I read this month, and yeah, let me know if you read any of them. But without further ado, let's get on to my TBR. So I am really bad at sticking to TBRs. My goal is just to read 7 books a month. So I'm hoping to read 7 books this month. I only have 4 books here because I don't know what I want to read. I'm just gonna let it loose, and I'm not gonna like force myself to stick to this TBR. But these are the books that I kind of mostly want to get to this month, but we'll see. So the first book that I have here is The Knife of Never Letting Go. So I got this at Half Price Books this weekend for about $3, and I've heard a lot about this series. Like, everyone always talks about it. Like, it's a great series. You know? It is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Septis. For those of you who don't know, this is set in 1945 at the height of World War II. And it's about 4 refugees who just are trying to survive. And I'm hoping that I enjoy this. So another book that I got this weekend at Half Price Books, this was $6, and it is Magonia by Maria Davana Headley. I meant to buy this when it first came out. Yeah, I don't really know that much about it, but I'm excited to read it, so hopefully I get to it this month. So this summer, it is my goal to read at least 1 book off my TBR pile that has been on there for over a year. And so I have a huge TBR pile. I probably have over 100 books on my TBR that I physically own, and that is a lot of books. This is kind of my way of trying to attack that, you know? And so I'm going to try and read a few series, maybe read the first book in a series, and hopefully it grabs me and forces me to read the whole series if I have it, because I have quite a few whole series over there. And so this month I want to read Halo by Alexandra Adornetto. I don't know much about this. All I know is I have all 3 books, and I want them read because I've had them for probably close to 2 years now. So that's my May wrap-up and June TBR. So let me know in the comments anything about if you've read any of these books, if you recommend, if you have any recommendations for me to read in June, let me know. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!